Hello everyone, you're welcome to this edition of The Inside. I am Babyle Jonathan. Growing concerns over violation of human rights and national and international laws ratified by the Republic of Cameroon are rising up to the sky in the country, with the population suffering the consequences from the grassroots, from the bottom to the highest social class, with some cases like the hundreds of detainees of the Anglophone crisis who have been in detention according to legal minds in violation of the laws of the land and international legal instruments ratified by Cameroon, and many other detainees of political parties and civil society platforms like Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform, whose 4 members have been in detention for several months today, and political parties like the CRM, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, who have been crying out loud, and legal minds, lawyers, condemning what they consider as illegality in the arrest and detention process. And of course, we are talking also about high-ranking, high social ranking personalities like Justice Ayapola Bini, who was at the time of his arrest a Supreme Court magistrate who was arrested and detained for a long period of time with no justification, with no legal backing. We are talking about international tech expert, Cameroonian-born Rebecca Enonchong, who was detained for about 3 days and later released. We're talking about several cases like this, and we're going to take a look at this with a human rights defender in this edition of The Inside. Meet our guest in some few seconds. She has been struggling and fighting to ensure the respect of socio-economic, political, civil, and cultural rights of Cameroonians for several years, and she has been a fervent human rights defender in the country, a political leader, a civil society leader. She is the national president of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, and member of the Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform. You're welcome, Kabanwala Elite.
Thank you very much, Jonathan Babyle. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to say a special hello this Sunday, precisely to the people that you are talking about. I want to say hello to Chele Membu, Mira Angun, Musa Bello, Nana Collins, and Etienne Sama, who are currently in New Bell. I want to say hello to BBC Mancho, to Terence Penn, and others who are in Kondengi prison. I want to say hello to all of those who have been arrested due to the fact that they marched or did not march, because some of them did not even march on the 22nd of September. Some of them are members of the CRM, some of them are ordinary citizens. They are also in prison. And finally, for us not to forget that there are also dozens, I want to say hello to the dozens who have been illegally and arbitrarily arrested in the fight against Boko Haram. Some of them have been in jail for over 5 years today.
Many of them without trial, many of them detained beyond the stated time or period of time for pre-trial detention.
Exactly. You know, Mr. Babyle, I think that sometimes when some of us say we are living in dictatorship, people get surprised by that statement. But what does dictatorship mean? Dictatorship simply means that you are living in the arbitrary. That's all that dictatorship means. It means that there are no rules, there are no laid down rules that enable you to know that here I have crossed the line. And because I've crossed the line, this is what is going to happen to me in this procedure. In Cameroon, there are no rules. And we have seen it time and time again. And I believe we are really slipping now into a situation which is almost chaotic.
But we have often heard our authorities saying that Cameroon is a state of law, and that we have also heard legal minds saying that there are very beautiful laws in Cameroon, very good legal instruments to protect the rights of the people, but they are not being implemented. The problem is at the level of implementation.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think that there are some laws which need to be changed. For example, the law that allows people to be kept in detention for 6 months. You cannot deprive somebody of their liberty for 6 months when you don't even know whether they are guilty or not. And it is renewable. In certain instances, can be renewed twice. So somebody can be in jail legally. An innocent person can be in jail legally for 18 months. So we have some laws which need to be changed. But I understand the people who say, if we could only even apply the laws which we have. This is also correct. Mr. Babila, do you know that if we applied the law in Cameroon with regard to arrest, no less than 90% of the people in jail would be released.
And the prisons will be decongested.
And the prisons will be decongested because over 90% of the arrests, I am being generous, in Cameroon, whether sometimes people feel that it is we politicians who suffer from it, but as we are seeing in cases, it is a general problem in the Cameroonian society that the law is not respected at the time of arrest. And legal principle says this, that if you do not respect the law at the time of the arrest, you cannot continue with the legal process. You must respect the law at the beginning of the process for me to believe that I am getting justice, for the person who has accused me to believe that they are getting justice. If you begin the process with illegality, it shows that you will remain illegal throughout the process. And that is precisely what is happening in Cameroon
and
today.
We're going to take a look at one of the most recent cases qualified by lawyers as illegal and a complete violation of the law. An individual arrested in a family affair, in a family conflict over properties left behind by their late father, and he is arrested with an arrest warrant signed by the attorney of Ngumu, that's in the central region, but with the letterhead of the Bafoussam Court of First Instance, I think so. And then the person is arrested here in Douala. Total confusion in the whole thing. Now, let's take a look at this report.
Dimitri in tears as he doubts if he will be in school come Monday when the academic year resumes. The teenager's father, Jules Mbezele, is behind bars over property dispute with his stepbrother, Pierre Ibanda. The new school year starts soon and there is no one to pay my tuition fees. My father has been arrested and mother sick in the village. My father has been locked for nothing. The sister of Dimitri, Marthe Murel, says his father has been held for unclear charges. My father is innocent. He is being kept behind bars for no crime committed. My father should be set free. The origin of this battle involving two stepbrothers, Jules Mbezele and Pierre Ibanda, dates as far back as 2015 when the head of the family, Mbezele Robert, died. Days after he died, the first wife with whom he had divorced and son Pierre Ibanda appeared, asking the second wife and kids to stay off properties left by Robert Mbezele. Since our father died on 8 July 2015 when he was sick, our stepbrother Ibanda Pierre was in Europe. The reason for the clash is because of the properties left behind by late Robert Mbezile. Stores on hire at the Dakar main market, a family resident, and the social insurance benefit.
Nous avons été informés de cette août, oui.
We were informed on Saturday, August 7, that he was picked up at Ndokoti about taking his lunch. We were told that elements of the Gendarmerie Research Unit of Ndogbat helped their colleagues of Ngumu to do the arrest.
La brigade de recherche de Ndogbat qui a prêté main forte à la gendarmerie de Vinci et Pangumu dans le centre qui est venu l'interpeller.
The tussle of the late father's property led to the summoning of Jules Mbezile by 5 different gendarmerie brigades, which did not work. Finally, it is at Ngumu in Yaoundé that Pierre Ebanda will get an order to detain his step-brother Jules Mbezile, signed by Nso Bienvenu, who works at the Ngumu court. But the paper signed by the court contained the stamp of the Court of First Instance in the West region, ordering them to arrest someone in Douala. The days ahead remain unpredicted as the battle continues.
Unpredictable days for the children of the man arrested and detained. Kabanwala Edith, when you listen to this story, do you see any light coming for these children?
I think that we need to look at this story and understand precisely what is completely wrong with our society and what is unacceptable. Look at the age of children who are integrating the fact that their country is unjust. Because that young boy there, he is having a sense of extreme injustice. And we have to ask ourselves the question. First of all, this is a dispute about property. It's a dispute about who will inherit the land. Why is anybody going to jail? That's the first question. We behave as if the court system is not one where if I'm accused of something, I can stay in my house. And on the day I am called to court, I come to court and respond to any question. The only people that a society should be locking up are people who pose a danger.
Who's about and not known.
Who's about and not known. But even when the about is not known, they have been able to find that man. Why should they, for a question of property, be locking him up? He should be found. They serve him. They tell him, yeah, we serve, and they give him a court date. And on the day of court, he appears with his lawyer. Why do we behave? Is this a case? Is this somebody who has killed somebody? No. Has he stolen property? No. Has he broken property? No. Is he violent? No.
And then one curious thing in the whole thing is that the arrest warrant is signed in the central region in Gumu by the judicial authority there. And then it is the arrest warrant carries the letterhead and the stamp of another judicial institution in the West regional capital, Bafoussam. And then the person is arrested here in Douala.
I think this shows the clear corruption and manipulation of the justice system. Very, very clear corruption and manipulation. In the Cameroonian law, there are what is called jurisdictions. You cannot, the gendarmerie in Bafoussam cannot ask for somebody to be arrested in Douala. First of all, we have to understand what was shown there is property which is in Douala, shops in the market in Douala. What does this have to do with Bafoussam or with Ngumu?
After
they don't have jurisdiction.
After 5 gendarmerie brigades or branches have failed to arrest him, the brother now got authorization for him to be arrested in the central region.
I mean, it's incredible. And you know, I think people don't realize the extreme. We have been in this system for so long, and they try to justify it to us and try to get us used to it for so long. Anywhere where you don't have rules and regulations on which the entire population can count, on which those children can count, is a jungle. It is a jungle. And the state of Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon, should stop being a rogue state. The Constitution of Cameroon puts as one of the key responsibilities of the government of Cameroon ensuring the respect of the rule of law. How do you respect rule of law when you yourself have become somebody who systematically violates the law?
And when we look at those children, when we listen to them, we can see deep into the consequences of these kind of actions on the rights of those children. Their right to education is tampered. Their right to livelihood is tampered. And their rights, in fact, their rights in general, they are really feeling the pains of what can be qualified as illegality. And this seems to be telling nothing to anybody. It seems to be saying nothing to anybody.
You know, Mr. Babila, I have dealt a lot with the justice system in Cameroon, both the civil one and the military one. I have dealt a lot with those who are supposed to be officers of law and order, the police, the gendarme, even the military. You sometimes feel as if the people who are doing these types of things, it's as if they are schizophrenic. It's as if they have one mind when they are a policeman, and then they turn around, they have children. You see somebody who is talking to you, who is sending somebody to jail without regard for the fact that his children, the young boy is crying because he doesn't know whether he's going to be going to school. But I can bet you that that family in a couple of days doesn't know how it eats, because that is their main the breadwinner for the family. I can bet you that they feel in total insecurity. So you see people who are taking care of their own children, making sure that their own children go to school, going to organize the marriages and the baptisms and the whatever of their own children, but putting other people's children in this kind of situation. And I just want to say here that we can enumerate these cases one after the other. The question is no longer to the justice system. It is no longer to the government. It is no longer to any gendarme or any policeman. The question is to us as Cameroonians, to all the different actors, the political, the Bar Association. I'm sorry, but I find the Bar Association gone missing. The Bar Association has gone missing because we see these continuous violations of the law, sometimes with regard to lawyers themselves, and we seem to have a Bar Association which has gone deaf and mute.
Barrister Tamfu and some other lawyers have been decrying what they consider as illegality at the helm of the Bar
already they themselves, but we should be hearing. And if the Bar cannot talk, then lawyers must stand up and talk. Magistrates must stand up and talk and say, it is not a question. In some of these cases, it is not a question of saying I support this person or I don't support them. I don't know whether Mr. Ebanda, I don't know whether he is guilty or not guilty of whatever he is being accused of. But I am asking that the law be respected with regard to him. It's as simple as that.
And that story is similar to what happened to one of Cameroon's international figures, international tech experts, Rebecca Enonchong, who was detained for 3 days, close to 3 days, over a similar issue.
Absolutely. Rebecca Enonchong, who is a CEO So a wealth creator for Cameroon, because that's the first thing, is that she runs a company that provides jobs and that creates wealth for Cameroon, that pays taxes to the government of Cameroon, who is somebody who is known as an advocate for African tech throughout this continent, who is a president of a board of an organization that has dozens of incubators around the continent, known nationally, internationally, recognized in more forums than you and I can count. Cameroon, because we have to be clear that these actions, when they are taken, it is not one policeman here or one attorney general here. No, it is the responsibility of the state of Cameroon. So Cameroon picks her up with no written complaint. So there is no proof anywhere that somebody has complained. She gets picked up. She gets a question over a private matter. Again, it's something to do with property, not violence, not she was said that she what do you call it?
She disrespected the magistrate.
She disrespected a magistrate. So disrespect to a magistrate. We keep somebody of that caliber in the gendarmerie. She was there for 3 nights and close to 5 days, because the first day she was there was she spent a day just being interviewed, then the next day they picked her up. So you take a week out of the life of a CEO, you send a message to the world. This is Cameroon, where we say we want investors, we want people to come and put their money into companies, we want people to come here and create jobs, but we take our own job creators and you pick that person up illegally, no complaint, no warrant, nothing which you can call being caught in the act of flagrant délit, which are the 3 cases in which you pick somebody up. You pick somebody up like that, you keep her in the gendarmerie for 3 days. What is happening in those 3 days? Nothing.
As a human rights defender, what's your understanding of the fact that there was no written complaint, but there was a verbal complaint from a judicial authority who is said to have been the one behind the arrest and who was the one who was to handle the matter, if at all it had to go to court?
So here is I mean, how the gravity of the situation. So we have the Attorney General of the Littoral Region, so the highest judicial official in the largest region in Cameroon, the most populous region in Cameroon, or one of the most important, maybe not the most populous, but you have the highest judicial authority taking, first of all, laying a verbal complaint. Can you and I, Mr. Babila, can we go to any gendarmerie here and lay a verbal complaint? The law allows for it, but in practice, can we?
You'll be asked to go and write it down.
Immediately you walk in, the first thing they tell you is that you have to write down your complaint. Why should the judicial authority, the person who represents the law, and he is the complainant? I mean, this is what we call law school 101. I didn't go to law school, but even the school I went to, we did some small basics in law. And this is what you learn on the day 1, that you cannot be judge and jury, right? This man cannot be the person who complains. He is the complainant. He is the one who initiates arrest. He picks up his phone, tells the legion commander, who, by the way, according to Cameroonian law, is under his authority. So he gives an order, basically, that arrest that person, but you are the complainant. And then they arrest that person, they keep the person, then they take the person to the court of first instance. The attorney general at the court of first instance, he reports directly to the complainant. Have we ever seen this, Mr. Babila, in our families? Let us not go far. In our families. If you and I are in the family and we have a problem together, what is the first thing that the family says? We must bring a neutral person, right, to solve this case. Can we have a problem?
Like a witness?
Can we have a problem and then we say the person judging the case is your brother or is my sister? Even in a family, this is not accepted. They will say, no, you have an affiliation to this, you have an affiliation to this, please, let's look for a neutral person. Why in Cameroon are we accepting things which are contrary to every notion of human dignity and human living? Why are we allowing this? And I was saying that we need to come together as actors. This is not a case. These cases, whether it is the young children there, whether it is Madam Rebecca Enonchong, whether it is the case of the members of Stand Up for Cameroon, of the members of CRM, of the Anglophone detainees, of the detainees of Boko Haram, these are not cases. We tend to leave the cases, oh, Stand Up for Cameroon has people in jail, they should be fighting there. No.
The CRM fighting on the other side.
We should come together to say we want rule of law to be respected. And when we do that, lawyers should stand with us. Magistrates should stand with us. Every civil society should stand with us. People behave as if it happens to some people and it does not happen to others. I think that one of the most important lessons of the case of Ms. Rebecca Enonchong is that it can happen to anybody. Nobody is protected in this system. And had we not stood up to defend her, had we not stood up to fight and to demand that the rule of law has to be respected in this case, believe you me, you would have been hearing about 6 months detention.
And after her release, she said that those who think this is the end, it is rather the beginning. And she's not been at the forefront of the fight against the violations and abuse of human rights. But with this statement, how did you receive the statement? Did you see her getting into this fight fully?
First of all, I think we have to say she is somebody who has always stood up for what is right. She's an economic operator and she has stayed firmly in the economic lane. So we saw her, for example, with end-phone tax. She was one of the strongest voices on end-phone tax when they were about to tax our phones because government doesn't know how to collect its custom duties. She has been a firm voice on this question of illegal and arbitrary arrest. She has made statements. She's somebody who uses Twitter a lot, so you want to know what she's thinking, you go to her Twitter account. She made statements when the CRM was arrested. She has made statements over and over again for Stand Up for Cameroon people who have been arrested. And definitely, when she said this is just the beginning, I see her increasing that voice. The last 2 weeks, for example, we are on a strong campaign right now for the release of our Stand Up for Cameroon members who will be coming up to court on the 15th of September. And she is definitely part of that campaign. She's raising her voice with regard to that. You know the thing the system does, which they don't realize. What we fear is what we do not know. Any human being, what you fear is the unknown. Once they arrest you, you now know what they are capable of doing to you.
You have an experience.
And most of the time, that makes you stronger in fighting against the system.
The Stand Up for Cameroon members who have been in detention for quite some time now, for several months today, want to know what is their state of mind and what is their state of health. We know that at a certain point in time, one of them was seriously ill and was chained on his sick bed in the Lakentini hospital here in Cameroon's economic capital. Well, so today, what's their state of mind and their state of health?
right now, as I said, the Stand Up for Cameroon members, they are coming up for the 6th time. For the 6th time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 time on the 15th of September, they are coming up to the court, to the military court. What is amazing about these young men is that they have been strong, they have been, they are very confident because they have done nothing wrong. These are people who were arrested on the 18th of September with regard to a march that was supposed to take place on the 22nd. It so happens, you know, at Stand Up for Cameroon, we are strong believers in our right to march. But it so happens that we were not marching on the 22nd of September. We were not part of the march. People who were marching signed a communique and made a public statement. We were not part of it. So these young men feel completely innocent, completely within their rights, and they are very, very strong in their minds. The Telemembu, who is the person who had a tooth infection and had an extremely swollen face, and who spent a good week or so in Lakentini Hospital, even he left there and went to court. He left his hospital bed and went to court, feeling very, very strong of mind. Yesterday, we, because we have dedicated every Friday in Black up to the 15th to our members, and we are calling for mobilization. We are calling Cameroonians to mobilize with us for the freedom of these young men.
Are you making some progress? Friday in Black movement, are you making some progress there?
Oh, for sure. Friday in Black, we developed it as an instrument of protest, as a way for Cameroonians in a country where you get beaten because you are because you are protested, you get arrested because you are protested. Friday in Black is meant for you to protest in a way that is safe and secure for you. And believe you me, we have used it. It is Friday in Black that we use to protest for Ngarbo. Please don't forget. It is Friday in Black that we use to protest for our Stand Up for Cameroon people. It is Friday in Black we have used over and over again to protest for the Anglophone crisis. We had a special Friday in Black for the CRM militants when they were first arrested. So I believe that it has become a very well-known and strong instrument of protest for Cameroonians. We want them to use it more, definitely. Cameroonians are not using it enough. And people have to realize that if you don't protest, these situations that we are describing, they continue and they get worse.
And they might meet you the next day. We want to go to the newsstands right now, and we're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. Immaculate Forgive with the press review.
According to the Star, 2 soldiers were killed in Mudemba in the southwest region. Newswatch describes the silence of the National Rights Commission on the Bali church shooting as suspicious. The Voice Weekender reports priesthood trapped between statehood and nationhood. The Scoop says separatist fighters kidnap Manfred Dowse's Vicar General. The Guardian Post exclaims as separatist fighters demand 20 million francs CFA ransom for the kidnapped Vicar General. Another edition of the Guardian Post questions if Anglophone regime barons are ignorantly financing separatist fighters. As reported by The Horizon, kidnapped Vicar General released. According to the Median, the once education Eldorado in the Northwest region, now lamentable. The Advocate, effective back-to-school Southwest Secondary Education bus upbeat. The Post Weekender says 2021-2022 school year, Minister Nalova Lyonga wages war on principals who collect fees. She insists on the payment of fees through MINSEC's mobile money account. Equinoxe claims no COVID-19 vaccination card, no sitting allowance. As reported by the Guardian Post, after Abuja Trans-Border Security Meeting, Minat Boss and Nigerian High Commissioner concurred to implement resolutions. Lifetime questions if Prime Minister Chief Joseph John Gute is really the head of government.
Thank you, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. Kabanwala, indeed, despite the general outcry from lawyers, civil society leaders, political leaders like you, but these Cameroonians arrested in the context of the Anglophone crisis are maintained in detention, even beyond the time or period of time specified by the law as far as pre-trial detention is concerned.
I think that number one, again, it is for us as Cameroonians to hold our government to account. Cameroonians are too silent. They allow us to talk. Oh, Madam Kawala is talking. The government says, oh, she talks all the time. Everything is a problem to her. She says she's an Anglophone. Oh, you see this other individual talking. They say, oh, that one, is somebody who is an opposition. So he always talks. The point is that we are living in a country which is at war. It is not because, Mr. Babila, it's not because you people in the media, you are tired of talking of Anglophone crisis. So now, unless they kill 10 people or 20 people, it is no longer news. It is not because the average Cameroonian is tired of hearing of Anglophone crisis. So when you tell him that, oh, there was this incident, encore, that does not change the fact that citizens of this country are dying every day, are being killed every day. Women are being raped. Children are being denied their rights to go to school. I ran into a young lady the other day. Crisis started, she was 12. Brilliant young woman. She's now 17. She has not been to a day of school in between. We are destroying lives. And we have to decide as a country, is it okay to do that? Because if it's okay, Cameroonians should let some of us know and we go and rest so that we should not be fighting all the time. If it is not okay, then we have to come together and tell this government it's not okay. The government cannot tell us that it wants to end the Anglophone crisis and keep these detainees in jail. The first most inexpensive step, of creating detente, of creating some release in the tension around the Anglophone crisis is to release all non-violent prisoners who are being held within the context of this crisis. We still have hundreds of young men and women in jail, many of whom the Conrad Nchis, the Felix Galim, they were arrested. There was no gun at the time because today, because there is a lot of killing going on, we have a tendency to forget that this crisis had 1 year within which people were being arrested almost on a daily basis. 1 year during which there was no gun, there was no violence. So why are you keeping those people in jail till today? You cannot, you imagine, Mr. Babila, the logic of a country. You say you have a DDR system. So a young man who may have killed people, who may have kidnapped people, who may have raped people, he can come to the DDR center, put down his gun, say, I no longer want to fight, please forgive me, and he's forgiven. His slate is wiped clean. But people who protested without a gun, without a stick even, who simply stood up and said, we want our rights, we have an opinion, we have a way of seeing this situation, they are still in jail.
That looks like a contradiction.
A fundamental injustice. It's a fundamental injustice in the society, which even the ones who are in the bush, they look at you who is doing that and they say, but I cannot trust this man. I cannot trust a government that is still keeping people in jail who have not, who did not commit any violent crime, and whereas they have something which they are calling DDR.
And meanwhile, in the far north region of the country, just as it was the case some time ago in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, with the ex-fighters coming out to protest and complaining about a series of issues, complaining that they were being kept there for so long and that their families were suffering. In the far north region of the country, precisely in the locality of Mary, there have been rising complaints about women and young girls being raped by ex-Boko Haram militants who ought to be in the DDR centers.
I can tell you, Mr. Babila, we had a member of Stand Up for Cameroon who visited the DDR center in the extreme north 2 weeks ago, and his report was one of the most alarming things that I have heard. The center he visited was built for about 70 people. Under normal circumstances, there are about 150 people there. Because what happened is, with the death of Shekau in July, there is a shift going on in the Boko Haram region, where Boko Haram as such has lost ground to international, to Islamic State of West Africa, so what we call ISWAP. So this new group now is taking over Boko Haram positions, is taking over Boko Haram troops,
strongholds.
Yes, and strongholds, and many Boko Haram fighters, not being sure of what is going to happen with that group, have decided to render themselves to the government of Cameroon. That's why you see hundreds and hundreds of Boko Haram fighters coming. Except that there is no mechanism to receive them. There is no mechanism whereby these people can come in, whereby, one, they should undergo intelligence debriefings, because these are fighters. These are people who have been living in the bush. You don't know what they have been doing. You don't know what has been their level of violence. What have they been responsible for? They are coming in. There's no intelligence debriefing. There are no logistics to house them. They are coming with their women, with their wives and their children and so on. And you find, for example, the center that was visited by our member, scheduled for 70 people, over 750 people are there. And the people were openly telling them that we are going to go back to the bush. This situation is untenable for us. Our lives were better in the bush.
And definitely that could explain why some of them are now in the communities, raping women,
of
raping
course.
young girls, and committing crimes within the communities.
Of course. And so you see, you know, the government, which is responsible for the security of every Cameroonian. The populations of the extreme north have been victims for the last 11 years. Since 2010, these populations have been continuously under attack. The government has been unable to protect them. Now again is another wave of Boko Haram coming into their societies. The government, it looks even as if it's not even making an effort to try to protect these communities. And Mr. Babila, it is a vicious cycle, because when you create injustice in the civilian population, you create recruits for the armed groups. So this situation right now will create people who become so dissatisfied that they decide again to go and join the armed groups.
Right, we're going to take some interviews now, and in the first of the interviews of the week, which we are going to serve to you right now, a legal expert, Barrister Tamfu Richard, member of the Cameroon Bar Association and the Nigerian Bar Association, explain what should be done when it comes to arresting somebody, of course, with an arrest warrant. Listen to these interviews.
An arrest can simply be defined as a process of apprehending a person and bringing that person before a judicial authority. The Criminal Procedure Code of 2005 defines arrest from sections 30 to 38 of the Criminal Procedure Code. So judicial police officers, law enforcement officers can apprehend a person while committing an offense. Before the person is arrested, there's a procedures that the person has to respect. The person arrested should not undergo any psychological or physical harm. If a judicial police officer or agent of the judicial police intends to arrest somebody, he orders the person to be arrested to follow him. And in the case of resistance, that is when he can use reasonable force to apprehend the person. Also, any person can apprehend a suspect if that person is committing a felony or a misdemeanor flagrante delicto. So even a civilian can arrest. An arrest can be conducted at any hour of the day, provided an offense is being committed. Another example where an arrest is possible, for example, if you refuse to disclose your identity, for example, in a public place when it is being requested by a police officer, he may arrest you and detain you for 24 hours. So
people were suffering from Nkambe to Ndu, even those that were going to the hospital. So much so that today we have now tried to fix part of the road, of which by next week Monday we will still go on arranging the road.
We are conscious of the fact that this is a national road, but we are a people who know that when you are waiting for somebody, you should start moving. And therefore, while we know that government has its responsibility, we as a community cannot allow our mothers to be unable to go to hospital because they come and sleep on the way. We cannot allow the prices of goods to rise. Savon was rising up to 600 francs because camions were coming and sleeping on the way. We cannot allow our population to be suffering.
It is no news to all of us that most of the farmers have abandoned their farms, and some go there from time to time. The agricultural calendar is no longer being respected because farmers don't have the free will to go to their farms as before when we were in normal circumstances. The low harvest too, with the crisis, most of the input accessibility now is difficult for farmers to acquire input, and with this difficult access to input, the prices of inputs have equally gone up. And with the low output, the farmers are poor, they cannot acquire the inputs at these high prices.
Leocadia Bomben, sport journalist, freelance journalist. I also equally do sports for BBC. Yes, you know, it's unbelievable because first of all, they said we should send accreditations, which we did. And there is really no explanation as to why the media or the press will not be at the Olembe Stadium. 30 journalists, for me, is not or are not the people who are going to transmit COVID to the players. So it's maybe they need to tell us exactly what the problem is, because from what I can observe, the field is not, how can I say it? The field is not, it's ready, but there is no security around the field to stop spectators. But I don't know why we journalists, we are not spectators, why we should not be there. So there's something they're not telling us, which they should come out clear and tell us that.
Giovanni Wane, writer with sportsglitz.net. I'm coming all the way from Boya, and I came to Yaoundé because I had to do the press conference for Malawi, the Flames of Malawi, and later on the press conference for the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon scheduled for today. Then this bombshell comes in. I think it's really a big, as colleagues have referred to it, really big deception that will not be able to cover the game tomorrow, principally because of the fact that we are left to cover the press conference before the game, which is some sort of tradition that when you cover the press conference before the game, you are to do the game and afterwards the afters of the press conference. So I think it's a big deception. And yeah, most colleagues like myself have had their feelings shattered to the walls.
We came here to talk with the president of the commission on, you know, the official press card, the one that is delivered by the commission is presiding at, because that one is not a card prepared and given to journalists by an association like us. It is a card that is meant for all journalists which are exercising in Cameroon, and that one should be the key element that will help us to clean the profession and to know exactly who is a journalist, who is not a journalist, because all starts from that. People are complaining of the fact that there is too much disorder in our profession, that the journalists are not professional, that they are not respecting ethics and deontology. But most of the time, it is not easy to demonstrate that somebody is a journalist, because everybody can just get up in the morning and say, oh yes, I have nothing to do today, or okay, I'm selling my goods, it's not working, let me be a journalist, let me become a journalist. So he has reassured us on the fact that he is working seriously and tremendously on that issue, and that he will accompany our efforts of bringing our profession on the right, you know, the right road.
Those were interviews of the week, and Barrister Tamfu Richard explaining what the law says in Cameroon as far as arresting people, arresting suspects is concerned. And as of now, as we speak now, there are still many Cameroonians, notably from the northwest and southwest regions of the country, where there has been a 5-year-long, close to 5-year-long conflict going on there. And those young men were arrested and they have been in detention. Many of them have not been tried to date, and there has been a general outcry about this. Kabanwala Edith, National President of the CPP, member of Stand Up for Cameroon, you said earlier that Cameroonians need to take things into their hands. Of course, not taking the laws into their hands, because that would be jungle justice. They need to rise up and fight for their rights. And the question is how to do this in an atmosphere where immediately you raise your head up, you're either crushed, you're either drowned, you're arrested, you're silenced, and things like that. Many of the people listening to you will just say you're sending them to commit suicide.
Not at all. The first thing is that they are dying. They should not have any illusion that they are living. We are all dying. You know, I often give the analogy that Cameroon is a sinking ship. It's a sinking ship. And some of us are saying, please, let's come together and pour the water out of the ship. Let's come together and change the captain who has taken us into these sinking waters. And while we are doing that, some people are saying, I don't want to be, because when you go near the captain there you may get a small beating or something. I don't want to do that. I just want to stay here on my chair. That's very nice, but your chair is on a sinking ship. We are all going to go down together unless we learn how to stand up together. So what are we asking Cameroonians to do? The first thing is join us. Join us. I know that some people are afraid. Ever since our some of our members were arrested. They are afraid even to come to a meeting. But let them know that that was the point. That was the point of arresting those few. Why have they not arrested the rest of us? We have continued to have Fridays in Black every Friday. We continue to meet. We continue to hold campaigns. And the more we are in a system where it is better to be upfront than to be hiding behind. The more upfront you are, the more protected you are, because it is more difficult to touch you when you have stood up firm and clear than when you are hiding behind somewhere. So we are asking Cameroonians, one, to join us. We are asking Cameroonians in their own groups, as I have said. The Bar Association. In the 90s in this country, we knew a bar association where when you broke the law, they would stand and they would talk about the law. It's not supposed to be Kawala, politician, fighting cases about illegal arrest. That's the job of the Bar Association. That's why they are there. To ensure that the law is being respected. That is the job of magistrates. Magistrates, we should hear the voice of magistrates. They have sworn an oath to protect that law. And the law is being broken. So, the things we are asking people to do is simply stand up and speak for yourself. Join us and let us talk together. We are not, you don't have to join a political party. Some people are afraid of joining a political party. You don't have to join a political party. But we do have to discuss, because as you have rightly said, what we are up against is something which is formidable. It is violent. The government is violent when you stand up for your rights. So we have to at least discuss and have some strategy and say this is the way we are going to do it and this is the way we are going to do it. I think finally on that point, Mr. Babila, what we can agree is that from the beginning of time, whether it is the Black Americans in the US, we are all running to the US today to go and enjoy life there.
Some people fought for that.
Because African Americans fought for that. Because otherwise, as black people, we would not find the US so enjoyable. We are running to South Africa, sending our children there to go to school.
Nelson Mandela and the
because South Africans, black South Africans fought for that. So wherever we are running to, people have fought. And yes, some of them died in that fight. Some of them were put in jail in that fight. Some of them had their lives destroyed in that fight. But enough of them kept fighting. Freedom is never given.
Freedom
it is always
seized.
It's
taken
from those
heaven suffered violence. Only the violent take it by force.
I don't agree with force ever. But we have so many beautiful examples of
force,
non-violence. Exactly.
Force and not violence.
Exactly. We have so many beautiful examples of non-violence. We have talked about the US, we have talked about South Africa, we have talked about, there are so many cases where it is non-violence that has won the day over violence.
Madam the President, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Bye-bye.